It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is news that you can use from CarEdge for Monday, June 3rd, with your hosts, me, Ray, in Ventnor, and, well, that good-looking kid, Zach, in our nation's capital, and yet soon to be in Ventnor.
Happy Monday, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. Today's show is brought to you by CarEdge, CarEdge.com, the company that my dad and I started 4 years ago now. If you are in the market to buy a car, protect a vehicle, sell a vehicle, please go check out CarEdge.com. We had an incredible May helping hundreds of people purchase new vehicles. Feels really good to help. The big story today, Dad, where do you want to start? On the recall side or on the fact that we have new testing scandals over at Toyota? There is too much news happening to Toyota right now. Where do you want to go, recall or testing scandal? Which one?
Oh, let's do testing scandal. This is a big deal. This is this is the world's largest automobile manufacturer, who has had and spent a corporate career developing a pretty remarkable reputation, almost spotless, until the last couple of years. And
so what's going on? What's going on over at Toyota? They have suspended more vehicle shipments. 7 more models are now suspended from being shipped from Toyota. This includes Honda, Mazda as well, because they didn't actually test the vehicles up to the standards that they said they were testing the vehicles. This is the 4th major scandal for Toyota in the past year.
Something like that. And if you want to believe the nonsense that Akio Toyota is spewing, that, well, no, we actually tested them. It was more stringent tests than what the government called for. But we didn't have we didn't have government approval to test at that level, and so that would the government really be complaining if you tested at a higher level than what the government mandated? I was going to say somehow I doubt it, but I don't, because governments can be stubborn that way. Because I remember when we moved to the Chauncey Ranch campus in North Scottsdale for the Acura store, and when we built the store, when Mr. Penske built that campus and built the store, there were corporate guidelines set up by Acura for what the interior of the store had to look like. And according to Acura, the desktops had to be a dark blue Formica. And, Mr. Penske's interior decorators did a granite desktop, which the zone manager from Acura found that to be abhorrent. Oh my God, that's much nicer than what we call for. And until you scale back and make it the blue Formica it's supposed to be, we're going to hold off on those 300 extra cars you're supposed to get. So there was a case where we did more than what the factory wanted, and yet the factory stood firm and said, you ain't getting the extra cars until you redo the desktops. So my point is, I guess you could test more stringently than what the government calls for, but since it's not the governmental test, it's going to be shame on you.
Appreciate the story there, Pops. That took a second to weave its way back, but I'm glad you shared the story. Yeah, so Toyota's not testing, or did not test 3 of their vehicles up to what governments required. Those 3 vehicles were the Corolla Fielder, Corolla Axio, and the Yaris Cross. And this is also been found in models that are discontinued that Toyota had produced. So these vehicles, they've actually suspended production, for those 3. It was actually found that they were doing these deceptive tests for 7 vehicles. So 3 vehicles are taken off the production line. 7 vehicles total are not being shipped out from Toyota. And these tests include, you can see it here, the wide-ranging fraudulent testing at Japan's top automaker involved the use of inadequate or outdated data in collision tests and inaccurate testing of airbag inflation and rear seat damage and crashes. Engine power tests were also found to have been falsified.
There you have it. Yeah. So, this goes along with the Daihatsu stuff that they had and the Hino trucks issues that they had.
Motors. Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's embarrassing for the world's largest automotive manufacturer to keep falling into these negative stories in regards to how they're running their business in Japan. Now, let's be fair here. This only impacts vehicles in the Japanese market, but it shows a pattern. And the pattern for some of this stuff dates back to the 80s. Okay, and the pattern as it exists today is that, well, there's a failure for management and other workers to adequately understand the processes. Now, you would think if you've been in business as long as they have, and you've been dealing with the Japanese government for, well, as long as you've been in business, you think you might understand the processes by now.
I think it's processes that I also think it's like corporate pressure. You're supposed to make more money every single year. You have to find ways to do it. And so what do you end up doing? You end up falsifying information so that you can ship cars, so you can meet objectives. So I hear you on processes. I think the big takeaway, let's veer away from like, Toyota's got to figure their stuff out. As consumers, I think this starts to wave one of the initial yellow flags for a brand that has been revered as being number one. The other story that we're going to talk about today that pertains to Toyota continues to drive home that thought, Dad. So again, let's think about this from the consumer perspective, less from the corporate perspective. Toyota recalls certain model year 2022, 2023 Toyota Tundra and Lexus LX vehicles. We had been made aware by our community of this news last week. This is a huge story, Dad. There's a reason why Tundras are not selling here in the United States. And it's because there are material issues with the engines. There's a possibility that certain machining debris may not have been cleared from the engine when it was produced. In the involved vehicles, this can lead to a potential engine knocking, engine rough running, engine no start, and or loss of motive power. A loss of motive power while driving at higher speeds can increase the risk of crash. Dad, Toyota, revered, they are on the Mount Rushmore of automakers you can trust that build quality machines, not only getting caught up in these scandals where they are misleading government agencies as well as primarily in Japan, they are also now getting into an issue here with a recall of actual production qualities. Like the quality of the vehicle they've produced, the engine is not good. So again, take the corporate side of it. I think just as consumers, I mean, I'm curious if you agree with me. I think you got to now look at Toyota and kind of double check.
Well, as a consumer, you can no longer base your purchasing decision on the fact that for the most part, Toyotas have been bulletproof, and that they've been one of the highest quality made vehicles in the world. And that might be past tense, not present tense. And that's an issue. You can only ride on your past accolades for so long. And then if presently you're starting to develop more and more issues that had never been issues for your brand in the past, people are going to wonder, A, what's going on, and B, is it worth the money that it takes to get a Toyota if it is of a inferior quality in comparison to what it used to be? I will share one other quick story with you. And that had to do with when we had the golf store in Mesa, Arizona, which was about a mile and a half from, at that time, the General Motors Proving Grounds when that was in Arizona.
Yep.
And those engineers used to come to our golf store all the time, and they'd always drive different make vehicles every time they'd show up. So I asked one of the engineers, A, why are you never driving a GM product? He says, well, because we buy all the others so we can tear them down, so we can see how they're built, so we can see what the quality is. Okay, interesting. In your assessment, what are the best cars out there? Without hesitation, Lexus, Never seen anything like it. The quality of the build, the quality of the materials. This was in 1989, 1990. Things have changed. Okay, if General Motors is tearing down every one of those vehicles today, they might be astounded at how the quality has dramatically gone down, and they may be thinking to themselves, suddenly we might be building actually a better vehicle than Toyota and Lexus is. And if that's the case, then it becomes, well, how do we explain that to the rest of the world? um, this is an issue. This is an issue that can erode customer confidence moving forward in Toyota products. And
I think it is. I
yes,
think it is. You've got testing scandals. You had emissions scandals with
yes,
Hino. You had other scandals that were going. I'm telling you, there's 3 or 4 major scandals
yes,
just in the past 12 months with Toyota. And then you have production issues. You have quality
yes,
control issues. And with the engine of all things
yes,
on the Tundra. And we see it manifesting itself, to be clear, in like the Tundra is one of the slowest selling new Toyotas. There are currently 33,000 new Toyota Tundras for sale nationwide. The 24s are not impacted or not part of this voluntary recall. But look at the price point on these, man. You're paying a lot of money, an awful lot of money for a Toyota. I mean, they're all $55,000 plus. Here's a $75,000 Toyota Tundra, Dad. They are not cheap.
no, well, and Toyota, for the longest period of time, of the Japanese brands, has always been the most expensive of the Japanese brands. Always been more expensive than Honda. Always been more expensive than Subaru. Always been more expensive than Mazda. It's always been that way because the quality, the perceived quality, has always been higher than its competitive peers. And now it might no longer be the case. And if it is the case, then it's going to be harder and harder to get people to spend $75,000 for a Toyota pickup truck, or 50 some $1,000 for a Toyota Sienna van.
Yep.
Whatever it is, and so this will have long-term ramifications. Now, I can't sit here today and say, hey, they're no longer the best vehicles in the world, but they very well might not be. Okay, from what we can gather, they very well may no longer be the the best out there when it comes to a mass market brand.
Yeah.
This is an issue that's going to impact them on a manufacturing level, and more importantly, their dealers on a local level. Because
There's one other Toyota specific thing that is worth bringing up, and we have Sasha Nair 91 here reminding us. I live right by Toyota corporate headquarters. I've complained to them multiple times about dealer markups and forced pre-installed accessories on new Corollas. Toyota corporate simply does not care. This is another thing. We've documented it on the YouTube channel, on the CarEdge YouTube channel. Toyota, in many regions of the United States, has legacy agreements with distributors.
yes,
And those distributors add all sorts of crazy options and add-ons and accessories that do not come from the manufacturer. And then, of course, dealers tag on to that as
yes,
well. This is another thing that's holding back Toyota adoption in the United States. You've got scandals, quality issues, and you've got distributors and dealers adding all sorts of junk onto these cars.
If I may, Toyota, like every other manufacturer out there, has no control over that. If these are port installed accessories from their two leading distributors, Southeast Toyota and what's the one in Texas? I forget already.
Gulf States.
Gulf States. If it's, they have no control over that, and then they have no control. They can't do anything to their dealers who add additional dealer markups. None of the manufacturers can. These are suggested retail selling prices, either from Toyota or other manufacturers. Dealers are free to sell at whatever the market is willing to bear. Okay. And so Toyota, much like Ford, much like Stellantis, much like Hyundai, Kia, when they were all sending out memos during the pandemic, reminding the dealers that this doesn't look good when you do it, that's all they could do was say, well, this doesn't look good when you, they can't stop the
They
dealers from doing it.
they choose how they distribute vehicles in the United States. That's a choice.
You know, listen, they made that choice 60 years ago. So
Yeah, but Dad, everything is negotiable. Everything is flexible, especially in business. Dad, if these distributors,
yes,
which Sachin was making us reminding us, if these distributors ruin the customer experience because they always tack on 5-10% extra cost and crap that customers didn't ask for, and that starts to eat at Toyota's bottom line because their sales start to go down, which spoiler, they haven't. But if they were to, you know what Toyota would do? They'd figure out a new arrangement. There's no economic incentive right now for Toyota corporate to go to Gulf states or to go to
I
why are we both struggling with this so much?
I don't know,
What's the other one?
Southeast Toyota.
Southeast set and do anything about it. There's no economic incentive for them right now, but there might be in the future.
You know, I'm just guessing, Zach. You know, because I haven't worked for either Southeast Toyota or Gulf States, but I'm guessing, just guessing, that those distributor agreements with Toyota are pretty damn ironclad. Okay, and that Toyota can't disregard or do away with those agreements unless there are some felonies being committed by the distributors. So
You are so wrong. I'm sorry, Dad. You are so wrong. All these things can be modified. I've never read the agreement between these two, one publicly traded and one privately traded company. But those agreements do not have clauses that say the only way we can get out of it is if you commit felonies. You can do whatever the hell you want in business. They have agreements. They can break those agreements. Customers need to vote with their pocketbooks. And Toyota has done three things. One is scandals. Testing and related and emissions related. One is quality, and the third is created arrangements 60 years ago, created arrangements that are adversarial for consumers. If you think that you have to do criminal acts to get out of that, you are wrong, Dad. You are 100% wrong.
I'm guessing I'm not wrong. I'm guessing there's clauses built into these agreements that specify exactly how it is that those agreements can be terminated. And I guarantee you, one of the clauses is if they are found guilty of doing something that is criminal. That's one of the agreements. One of the pieces of a franchise agreement with their dealer body, that one of the ways a dealer can lose their franchise is for felony convictions, doing things criminal. I know it for a fact.
Whatever, man. It's different. It's different. What we were talking about is a dealer agreement, which they have all sorts of things that you're exposed to because you were in the industry. I'm just telling you, man, if Toyota was losing customers left and right because we made a big enough, hubbub about the fact that Southeast Toyota distributors and Gulf States Toyota distributors add 5 to 10% BS on all of their Toyotas, if that was actually impacting Toyota's bottom line, P.S. it never will. Toyota is the largest automaker in the world. It's never even going to show up in their P&L statement. But if it did, they could change it, Dad. They 100% could change. Whatever. We don't have to argue about it. It's okay, Dad. It's okay. I'm wrong. You're right.
No. Let's just say that we can respectfully agree to disagree.
One thing that we can agree on is the fact that Toyota has a lot of bad press recently, and it's definitely impacting the image of their brand. Let's put a pin in it. That is for certain. Agreed?
Okay. I'm in on that.
All right, let's come here, Dad, to Joe. Thank you, Joe, for the kind contribution. Found on CarEdge, how can this 2022 car be sold new with 5,000 miles on it? Let's run the VIN. Let's see, Dad. Give me 1 second. Let's pull it up. I'm going to need you to read out that VIN to me pretty, please.
Okay, 1FMCU 9H98NU A26057.
Thank you, Dad. Greatly appreciated. All right, folks, we've got a 2022 Ford Escape that I think must have escaped the lot at some point in time. So Joe's question is, how can new cars have 5,832 miles on them? Let's go to the dealer website. Let's check out their listing on their website.
Perhaps
Give me
it
a
was
second here.
a demo.
Let's just make sure they've got it marked as a new vehicle. Man, I hate these dealer websites. I can't quite tell if they're advertising it as new on their website. I don't know. Do you see new anywhere? I do not. But Dad, maybe you can explain it's $40,000 Ford Escape SEL. So they're pricing it like it's a new one. How can dealers get away with advertising cars that have 5,000 miles?
If it was a dealership demo and it's never been titled, they can list a demo as a new car. And technically, as a car is considered new until it is titled, and so technically it could still be a new car. In reality, if it were a dealer demo, they would take a shortest deal as possible to get rid of it with 50 some hundred miles on it, especially being 2 years old, soon to be 3, so that you could, as a consumer, probably get a much better deal on it than what they actually have it advertised for. But that's how it could still be listed as a new car. Perhaps the GM was driving it. Perhaps it was the GM's wife's car. Perhaps it was the dealer principal's wife's car. Who knows? But if it was a dealership demonstrator that was running around town on a dealer license plate and not a state issued license plate, and not a normal retail license plate, it would still be considered new technically.
How does that impact warranty? Because if someone's interested in buying a old new vehicle that has a bunch of miles on it, does that positively or negatively impact the manufacturer warranty?
Well, in some cases, manufacturers will allow you to extend the warranty for the demo miles that are on it. In most cases, the demo miles, just if it's a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty, you now have a 3-year, 30,000 some mile warranty, whichever occurs first. But the time portion of it would start when the vehicle was sold to the retail customer, if it had not been reported as a retail sale to Ford earlier.
Nice. Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's super helpful, Joe. I hope that helps. I saw Joe had a follow-up question, which is how can they possibly be asking that price? That's a question I don't think anyone on earth can answer. $1,000 for a new 2022. Yeah.
Because they're a dealer, and as a dealership, they know they can't get what they don't ask for. So they're always going to ask for more than they ultimately hope to get. And obviously their hope is that someone comes in and goes, "Yep, I'm in on that. I'll take it at that number."
Yeah, absolutely. You can ask for anything. Let's keep going here, Dan. We've got from Fly Chomper. Fly, thank you. Having done contracts, Ray is right, given lobby. And we also have from Don here. Don says, Zach, you are wrong about dealership agreements. They cannot be changed unless there's a violation of the agreement. Been an advisor for over 42 years. Not a hill I'm going to die on, folks. I think that Toyota made some decisions 60 years ago that are paying off in ways that they didn't. Unintended consequences, I guess what I'm trying to say nowadays. And evidently those are in stone, set in stone. Thank you for that, Don. Awesome. The community members that we have here. We've got from Jason, how long can a Ford 5.0 V8 last? I have no clue.
Well, if you maintain it, if you take care of it, if you replace, change the oil more frequently than perhaps even Ford calls for, and I would say every 5,000 miles, maybe every 3,750 miles, you're changing the oil and you're doing the maintenance that you're supposed to do. That engine could probably last 300,000-400,000 miles.
There you go.
Changing oil is a cheap way to maintain an engine in a vehicle, except of course in an EV. You do that,
and also
you're going to have an issue with that EV.
And also when that engine has metal fragments in it from the
Yes,
production process.
yes,
The
yeah,
oil
yeah.
might help, but I don't think it's going to save you from
No.
that. We've got from Mike here, Toyota in Henderson, Nevada has a $5,000 markup on the Grand Highlander hybrid. I was talking to a sales rep and he talked to the sales manager, and the sales manager would only give $2,500 of that markup off. I'm bringing this one up, Dad, because our family friends
Yes.
use the car buying service, and they got at MSRP their Toyota Grand Highlander hybrid. Super excited for Barry and Sandy, and that was through our service. So do not, please, folks. I'm going to say for any vehicle, do not pay a market adjustment. Don't pay over MSRP. We can help you out. You should not be paying over MSRP on anything. This dealer should not be rewarded for asking $2,500, asking $5,000, but then going down to $2,500 over MSRP.
Yeah, they gave up $2,500 worth of air.
Yeah. Our $5,000 bucket of air became a $2,500 bucket.
Yeah, it's still a big bucket of air, even at $2,500.
We've got here, Dad, from Blackburn. I had a 5.0 Ford, ran up to 980,000 miles with the original engine and transmission. Holy cow.
Well, what happened? Did it take a crap at that point? Is that what happened? And then you were done with it?
That's not a bad time to be done with it when it's got nearly 1 million miles on the odometer. All right, folks, unfortunately, going to have to cut today short. I'm hopping on a train to get to Ventnor to hang out with my dad tonight. So I will be cutting it off here, if that's okay. Friendly reminder, CarEdge.com. If we can help you out with anything, please check it out there. And then, Dad, we will have new thumbnail photos soon. Tonight's a photo shoot with my dad. Get excited. Yeah, what poses should we do while we answer Cloapo's kind contribution here? Got here late discussing the Tundra recall. Exactly, Cloapo, as well as the new scandal that's come out, the new safety scandal that's come out from Toyota. Okay, what pose are you going to hit later, Dad?
Oh my God, we have a whole list of poses that we're supposed to try and do. And so who knows, ladies and gentlemen, who knows? It could be just about anything we shall see.
Love it, man. Absolutely love it. John asking what we charge for our service, $999, John. Check it out, CarEdge.com. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us. Thank you for being here today, Pops. I love you very much. I look forward to giving you a big hug later on. My train arrives at Atlantic City at 4:24 p.m. So can you pick me up there, pretty please?
4:24? You want me down at the train station at 4:24?
Yes, please.
I'll be there in the green, what is it? The green Mini that you didn't put any gas in when you used it to go visit your friends. You cheap little, whatever. See you soon.